Often, on a typical trip to a Whole Foods, you can hear a standard parent say something along the lines of, genetically modified foods are bad, my kids will never eat anything genetically modified, and no good can come of genetic modification. This is simply untrue. First off, everything that you eat is genetically modified. Whether it be the plants or the animals, for thousands of years it has been specifically bred into what you see today. Corn did not used to be as big as it was, and thousands of years ago, cows didn't even exist. The use of genetic modification also stretches far beyond food. This brings us to what we're going to talk about today, which is the use of genetic modification in pharmaceuticals. My name is Ryan Davis. I'm a senior at UNCW, and I've been accepted to pharmacy school. So pharmaceuticals are something that are very close to me, and also something that I find very interesting. We're going to talk about the use of genetic modification in pharmaceuticals in three parts. The first is, what is a genetically modified pharmaceutical? The second is the feasibility of genetic modification in pharmaceuticals. And the third is a specific look at a type of genetic modification that's being used right now to treat diseases. So what is a genetically modified pharmaceutical? A genetically modified pharmaceutical will often come from plants. And these plants either display a specific protein or an enzyme that we want to harness and put into the body. Now this can be used to treat a multitude of diseases, and many of them are being used to treat cancers or come up with new treatments for cancer. Now this can be done by adding genes into the plant so that they will express the proteins that we want to. You're actually adding DNA into the DNA of the plant so that it is able to create these either proteins or enzymes that we want it to have. Now I know this sounds like science fiction, which brings us to our second part, which is the feasibility. With the modifications and the new developments in genes, gene study, and microbiology, this is very feasible. We can easily and pretty accurately add genes and which code for proteins into plants. It's much less expensive to cultivate a plant also. If you take, for example, fish oils. To take a fish oil pill, first you have to cultivate a fish, you have to bring it up, and then you have to extract the oils and put them into a pill. Where if the genes for fish oils could be encoded into a plant, you could just take the plant, grow it out of the ground, and take the oil right out of it. It's much lower maintenance and lower cost than using animals for things like proteins. So as you can see, it's very feasible that we could do this. The third thing we're going to talk about is a specific case. So within your body right now, I'm sure you've heard of white blood cells. Well, a specific type of this is called a T cell. And T cells mark certain cells that shouldn't be in your body for destruction. Often cancer can be able to fool these T cells, and they're recognized as a part of your body that should be there. Using genetic modification, recently there has been a groundbreaking discovery that these T cells can be modified to specifically bind to certain types of cancer through this genetic modification. After they're genetically modified, they're reintroduced in your body where they proliferate because they were taken from your body, and then they can go and destroy the cancer that otherwise they would not have been able to see before. This has been shown extremely effective in certain types of lymphomas and leukemias, and this is just one of a multitude of different uses for genetic modification within pharmaceuticals. As you can see, genetic modification is not bad. It's not all good and it's not all bad, but there's definitely some useful applications of genetic modification through the modification of plants or the modification of parts of your own body. We need to continue this research and this development to help treat diseases into the future. Thank you.